The scientists and the whistleblowers wind up dead. That's all I'll say about that.
So this is something that can destabilize a person's faith. I mean, if a person, is a Bible-believing Christian and all of a sudden the government's saying, hey, we have UFOs and all that.
We have the retrieved bodies from these crashed craft.
Which makes me think that Jesus is coming soon.
It's a breeding program. It's a seed war, which is exactly what we see happening now. There is a breeding program. So I think the implants are the prototype to the mark of the beast.
Welcome to Tipping Point. I'm Jimmy Evans. I'm sure you're aware of the fact that just a couple of weeks ago, President Trump declassified 8 decades of government files concerning UFOs and released those to the public. And according to the news reports, there's going to be more files declassified and disclosed in the near future. This is unprecedented and proves what we've been saying on the show for years, that UFOs are real, and the government has been aware of this for decades. And according to top government officials, they've been retrieving wreckage from UFOs since Roswell in 1947. And add to the drama, since 2022, at least 12 top scientists connected with UFO research have been murdered, gone missing, or died mysteriously. These are some of the issues I'm going to be discussing today with my guest, L.A. Marzulli. Before I introduce L.A., let me tell you a documentary that you need to watch if you haven't already seen it. It's called The Age of Disclosure, and it's on Amazon Prime. If you have any doubts as to the reality of UFOs and the government's knowledge and involvement in this for decades, you have to watch that documentary. It is dozens of top American scientists, military, intelligence, and government officials all telling what they know firsthand about the government's collection of UFOs and aliens, and it will convince you this is a real and very important issue. The purpose of today's program is to discuss all of this in light of Bible prophecy and to give believers and non-believers the ability to contextualize this bombshell government disclosure and to understand what it really means. Today I have joining me L.A. Marzulli. He has done extensive research for decades concerning UFOs and aliens. L.A. has written many books and produced many documentaries on this subject, and I don't know of anyone who knows more about it or can better explain it from a biblical perspective. His latest book on this subject is called Rungs of Disclosure: Following the Trail of Extraterrestrials and the End Times. This couldn't have been written at a better time, and I'm very excited to have him joining me today to discuss this very important topic. L.A., thank you for being here.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me back on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, you know more about UFOs than anyone that I know of, period, but also in the Christian realm. This is something that isn't talked about a lot. It's something that, a few people dabble in. You've been involved in this for decades, and you're able to contextualize, and that's why I want people to listen to this today. What people are hearing now, you've known for decades. You've been studying this for decades. So what this government release, President Trump just declassified 8 decades worth of this information. What do you think is going on? Why do you think the government's releasing this at this time?
Well, there seems to be like a push and pull. There seems to be a faction in the government that doesn't want this stuff out, but then Trump is rolling it out. And, it's very complex. I mean, it really is complex. And the machinations behind the scenes that we don't know about, that we don't see. I mean, they're there. Without getting too involved, the scientists and the whistleblowers wind up dead. That's all I'll say about that. So, who's doing that? Is it just coincidence? I won't touch that with a 10-foot pole, but it's there and people were talking about it. So what we see is AARO, which, so ATIP was founded by Luis Elizondo.
Right.
Advanced Aeronautical Threat Identification Program. So then AARO comes in, ATIP is defunded, AARO comes in, and then one of the head guys from AARO basically stands up and said, nothing to see here. We have absolutely no evidence of any of this. And yet we've got all these whistleblowers. I mean, Admiral Gallaudet, one-star admiral, states on the record, USOs, underwater submersible objects going at speeds that we can't even imagine.
Yeah.
You've got whistleblowers like David Grush. We have the retrieved bodies from these crashed craft,
Yes.
non-human biologics. So all this is coming out, and then you get the declassification of like you said, 8 decades worth of information and photographs and all this other stuff. And when that happened, we pushed back on it immediately. We did a show, Tim Alberino, myself, Mando Gonzalez, we all got together and talked about it. There's a lot of confusion. People are going, well, some people are going, this is demonic. Well, wait a minute. Demonic, what does demonic mean? And this is what's troubling about it. You know, demons are disembodied spirits of a Nephilim, in my opinion.
Right.
So they need to inhabit a body. Fallen angels have eternal bodies.
Right.
Eternal bodies. Angels, the good guys, eternal bodies. They can't be destroyed. I think they can be wounded, which is another discussion. But what we're seeing, this is very complex. There is nuts and bolts craft. And what do fallen angels need, craft to zip around? And why do angels need this? Well, just turn to, 2 Kings chapter 6, when Gehazi is booted out of a tent. And Elisha says, open his eyes, Lord. And Gehazi sees, what does he see? The chariots of fire all around Elisha. Well, what is a chariot of fire? And we've talked about this before, but basically thousands of years ago, the chariot is the apex mode of transportation.
Right.
And fire is oil lamps and torchlight and campfires, whatever. That's it. There are no incandescent light bulbs. Edison won't be alive for thousands of years, so that's not going to happen. So Gehazi's looking at a phenomena. He has nothing in his wheelhouse, nothing in his lexicon to even relate to what he's looking at.
Right.
A chariot of fire. That's what they are, and that's what we see today. It's a very complex subject. I don't have all the answers. Nobody does, but it's very troubling and very alarming, in my opinion.
It is very troubling and alarming, and this is one of the things that there was reported a private meeting that some government officials had with a group of pastors, and they were telling them about the disclosure, the report that was going to come out declassifying this information. And what they said was, we're telling you this because we want people to be able to understand it, and we want you to help them to understand it in the context of their faith. In other words, when people hear that there really are UFOs and there really are aliens, I mentioned in the introduction, LA, the documentary, The Age of Disclosure, this is top government scientists, officials, politicians, military people. You mentioned the admiral, he was on there, and they're saying firsthand, this is what we know. They have on there scientists that said we have, I think it was at least 2 species of aliens that we have in our possession. There's at least 2. So these are no nonsense people. This is a very good documentary that has been done, and it's just matter of fact. And on there, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is on there also talking about it, as are other politicians. So this is something that can destabilize a person's faith. I mean, if a person, is a Bible-believing Christian and all of a sudden the government's saying, hey, we have UFOs and all that, we're going to get into this in this program. What I want to do here in this program is for you to help people understand from a biblical perspective what's happening, because part of what's happening is setting up a great deception. Is that right?
Absolutely. There's a scripture, 1 Timothy chapter 4. My good friend Mando Gonzalez pointed me to this a couple of years back. In 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1, the Spirit expressly states, so, I mean, that's a bold statement.
Right.
The Spirit of a living God expressly states that in the latter days, some will depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits.
Wow.
And the doctrine of demons. This is exactly where we are. What would cause a Christian to turn and go, well, maybe the aliens created us, which is what shows like the ancient alien show on excuse me, on the History Channel has been promulgating for 15 years or more.
Right.
That we were seated here. We were created. All life was created by a group of advanced extraterrestrials called panspermia. That is being promulgated in Day of Disclosure,
Right.
Disclosure Day, Steven Spielberg. It's everywhere. And you hear this echoed constantly, that with such a great universe like this, surely God wouldn't have made us the only ones. Excuse me, when the book of Revelation happens and the seals are open, we know that 1/3 of the stars go dark. How is that possible? Who throws that switch?
Right.
How is it? Well, that must be allegory. No, it's not allegory. It's literal.
That's right.
Because I believe we're in some sort of a holographic universe. And let me close by saying this. The Spirit expressly states that in the latter days. How do we know we're in the latter days? Israel is God's prophetic time clock.
That's right.
And for those of you who are all millennial and think that this can happen over and over again, Amos 9, 14, and 15, and we'll bring back the captives of my people, Israel. They will build the waste cities and inhabit them. That's exactly what we see.
That's right.
Vineyard, drink the wine from them. They will plant gardens and eat the fruit from them. I will plant them in their land, and never again will they be plucked up out of the land I have given them. That's it. They're back. They're never going to be plucked up. And if they get plucked up and somehow Israel ceases to exist, I got to start looking for another God. But I know I won't have to do that.
That's right.
Because God's word is sure. Prophecy, the sure word of prophecy. So it's very complex, but we are in the latter days, and some will depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and the doctrine of demons.
Well, it's what's happening. And Israel is a massive issue right now, I mean, scripturally. And they just celebrated, LA, their 78th birthday back in the land of Israel. And so these signs have been happening for a long time. When you look at AI, when I see anti-Semitism, AI, and aliens, those are the three things I look at right now that are showing these are not normal times. This is not just business as usual. Something's happening that's never happened before. The anti-Semitism is unprecedented, worldwide anti-Semitism. AI is unprecedented technology that we've never seen before, fulfillment of Daniel chapter 12. But the aliens, the government is now coming out and saying, in the age of disclosure, they're saying in there that we have been retrieving UFOs and bodies since Roswell in 1947. You've been saying that for years, right?
And it's real. There's a okay, Stevens, when I was at your little get together, I deconstructed some of this, but Steven Spielberg's trailer for his film, Day of Disclosure, right? It's unbelievable. There's a shot where it's going back to Roswell. There's a clip that we show that I believe was bootlegged out of Roswell from 1947. It shows all these guys in period dress, lights. There's probably 10 to 15 guys there. Could you do that? Well, of course you could. You could hire actors, but for what reason? Why are you creating this thing? We think it was smuggled out. And it shows two guys bringing in a stretcher, and on that stretcher is one of the grays,
right,
one of the bodies.
Right.
And they lay it down, and this here, the cameraman's like this. Some guy just runs right in front of him. He doesn't care. He wants to get close and see what this thing is. We think, Gil and I think that it's real. We watched this thing at least 10 times over and over and over again. We think it's real. It's the real deal. So the question is did Spielberg have access to that film and then recreate it? Or are we actually looking at the real film?
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah.
But it's rolling out. And I just want to show you something. This was the original. These are reproductions. There it is. RAAF captures flying saucer in Roswell region.
Right.
This is July 8th. So it's amazing. In the Spielberg film, it's July 7th. So that was not,
wow,
right?
Wow.
So, that's the day before the paper releases it. Then July 9th, Ramey's empty saucer. And basically, Ramey says excitement not justified. It's a weather balloon. And in the film, there's one of the actors, the characters in the film is really passionate. This 79-year-old cover-up has to stop. And he's really passionate about that. And that's when it cuts to this whole, Roswell film thing. So, I'm watching this like a hawk because this is a crafted movie. And Spielberg has said on the record recently that this new film, Day of Disclosure, is more reality or more truth than fiction.
Wow.
What do you do with that?
Wow.
Right? What do you do with that?
Well, he's a master filmmaker. It's going to be interesting to see how this affects
Absolutely.
people. But so let's talk about reverse engineering. So on the Day of Disclosure, the documentary that I recommend people watch on Prime, Amazon Prime, they're talking about reverse engineering all the way back to Roswell. Well, there was a man named Bob Lazar. I know you know all about Bob Lazar, and there's also a documentary on him. And he was a part of the reverse engineering. He was in the government programs. He got out. They threatened his life. They did all kinds of stuff. But the reverse engineering, like, this is something they're admitting now in the day of disclosure. Government officials, top officials, CIA officials. This has been happening for 80 years, that we have been taking since Roswell, these aircraft. In fact, one of the top government officials in the Day of Disclosure documentary said, it's like they're leaving us gifts. It's like they're leaving these things on purpose for us to find. Well, we have been reverse engineering these things. And evidently, and I want to talk in just a minute about these scientists that have gone missing, because I just want to read what's in the paper, read some of the articles here about the details about their missing. Russia and China and other governments were in an arms race, obviously, with these other governments. And so what do you think the significance is of the reverse engineering and where we are? And how's that playing into the end times?
Again, a very, very complex question. But they are reversing. I actually met Lazar at the Little Alien outside Rachel, Nevada.
Huh.
And I spoke with him. This is like 1994, 95, somewhere in that window of time. And this is before I was making films or writing books, but I was doing a lot of research into the phenomenon. I got to talk to him. And I said, I watched your documentary and I believe every word that you said. I believe in you. And I actually talked to George Knapp in 2019 at a UFO conference and said, I've always believed that Lazar, and he's never changed his story. They were back engineering the craft. I believe they succeeded. I believe some of what's out there is ours, back engineered stuff. But, like some people will say, well, the Tic Tac is ours. I don't think the Tic Tac is ours. I really don't.
Right.
This thing moved 50 miles in like 2 seconds. And I get that. And element 115 allegedly has to be used for the propulsion system. It's bending space and time, which is why there's no G-forces with this thing. But they're doing it. And I think it was Puthoff who stated on Day of Disclosure, and by the way, that led to our virtual conference where we had 10 speakers talk about this. And we showed the Roswell film and the film on abduction. And, Lou Elizondo, not to skip over the question, I'll get back to it, but Elizondo stated just recently, there's a breeding program going on. This all hails back to the Genesis 3:15 narrative. When Jesus says it'll be like the days of Noah, unless a person understands what Genesis 3:15 is and what that leads to, Genesis 6, Tower of Babel, Sodom and Gomorrah, Abraham and the kings, finally the conquest of Canaan where the Nephilim tribes are there. It's a breeding program. It's a seed war, which is exactly what we see happening now. There is a breeding program. So the gifts were deliberately, this is why we think, some of us believe that Roswell was a deliberate crash. Well, what about the bodies? Well, if the grays are just nothing but meat suits, avatars, then who cares?
Right.
Because the demons can just go in and out of those avatars, in and out, which is that's conjecture. We don't know for sure, but after talking to so many abductees over the years and getting other information, that's what I hold to. I think the grays are avatars, meat suits. So they're deliberately crashing these things so the back engineering can happen. And this is look, we've got some of this in film on Roswell and on some other stuff. We've talked to so many witnesses who were there, like Jesse Marcel Sr. was there. Yeah. And we show a clip of him decades after 1947. He's now an old man. He's an old man. And he's back in the debris field. And he looks right at the camera and says, we were out there. There was so much of it. It was as thin as a aluminum foil in a pack of cigarettes, but you couldn't bend it. A sledgehammer couldn't dent it. And we gathered it up when we came back. And, I was there at the press conference. And let me see. I think I have that. Yeah, exoneration. There he is right there. That's Jesse Marcel Sr. holding the parts of a weather balloon, and his body language says everything. And Marcel Sr. looks right at the camera and goes, I was at the press conference. They wanted me to speak, but that's not what I did. And Ramey stood up and said it was a weather balloon. And then he pauses and he says, but we both knew differently. And we just freeze the frame there. We both knew differently. And this is first, admonition that this really happened, that it was not a weather balloon. And then I interviewed Jesse Marcel Jr. before he passed away, which was an incredible interview. It's in our film. We reenacted that interview because it was a handwritten interview. It was not, and so we hired an actor and did it that way. But he handled the wreckage. His father brought the wreckage home, spread it out on the kitchen table and on the floor, and Jesse Marcel Jr. and his mother examined it. And his father, Marcel Sr., said, "What you are holding is not from this world, not from this earth, not from this world." And so they never changed the story. And in our film, Exoneration, the reason why we did that, the Marcel family really went through hell and back again because of all the ridicule and everything else. Oh, how could you pause? And Jesse Marcel Sr., this man is the intelligence officer of the 509th Bombing Group. And the 509th is the bombing group that dropped the A-bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Wow.
This is not Elmer Fudd. Right. This is not Elmer Fudd. This is a highly trained man who knew everything that was out there. And he gets to the debris field and he doesn't know what he's looking at.
Wow.
He doesn't know what he's looking at. So,
And that was in 1947, L.A. And you look at how many years have gone by. And again, the reports, the government reports that came out that were declassified said this has been going on since 1947. The government's been collecting the spacecraft, the alien bodies, all those kinds of things. And so there's not a lot about the alien bodies in what has been disclosed by President Trump, but there is about the spacecraft itself. Something happened this Purim that I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, was eliminated on the very day Jews celebrate deliverance from a man who tried to destroy them. The spirit of Haman is real. It's not just in Iran. It's in the halls of Congress, on college campuses, and in the media. 25 lies about Israel have been repeated so often that even good people are starting to believe them. That's why we wrote the book, Haman's Lies. This book dismantles those lies with truth, and right now we have a chance to put it directly into the hands of every member of Congress, every senator, the president, every governor, and 1,000 pastors across this country. $15 sends one book. Our goal is $30,000. Go to endtimes.com/donate and help us get truth into the hands of the people who shape this nation. This is an Esther 4:14 moment. For such a time as this, God has put us here. Together, let's reach this nation. So I want to read a little bit of an article here about the scientists that have gone missing. Because this is, I know that you had your own issues with being threatened for your involvement. But it says, this is the Washington Examiner newspaper, April 20th. It says the Trump administration is probing concerns surrounding nearly a dozen scientists said to be connected to highly secretive space research whose deaths and disappearances are under increasing scrutiny. The matter has stoked controversy due to mounting concerns surrounding the circumstances of the scientist's disappearance and death. For many of those being scrutinized, no public cause of death has been released. Many hold ties to top-tier institutions, have worked on classified projects, and have high-level security clearances. Concerns have also been raised due to the sensitive topics the scientists were said to have been linked to or researching on behalf of the United States, including UFOs and military, nuclear, and aerospace initiatives. So then they talk about some of the specific people that have been killed. Let me read just a couple of these here. It says, retired Air Force Major General William McCaslin went missing on February 27th after allegedly having connections to secret UFO government programs that included information about unidentified anomalous phenomenon, or UAPs. McCaslin's wife said her husband left their Albuquerque, New Mexico home on foot with a sidearm and suggested he did not want to be found. During his time in the military, McCaslin oversaw classified space weapons programs and led research at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which has been rumored to contain extraterrestrial debris from a UFO crash in Roswell, New Mexico. Monica Reza, who worked as the director of materials processing for NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, vanished in June 2025 at the age of 60. Like McCaslin, she had connections to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And then there's one more article here. It says the death of a genius anti-gravity researcher, Amy Eskridge, in June of 2022 was ruled a suicide from a self-inflicted gunshot wound by a coroner. A friend of the 34-year-old scientist, Frank Milburn, told News Nation that Eskridge, who lived in Huntsville, Alabama, believed she was being targeted for her work. Milburn claims that Eskridge told him in a text message, "If you see any report that I killed myself, I most definitely did not. If you see any report that I overdosed myself, I most definitely did not. If you see any report that I killed anyone else, I most definitely did not." Now, I don't know about all 12 of the scientists. I think there's actually more than 12 now. This is very troubling to think that people that are working in the UFO technology, reverse engineering, whatever they're doing. Now, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, isn't that where they took the Roswell craft?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we've got that on film.
Yeah.
In our Roswell film. I mean, how many times have we heard this, that everything's, I had a person come up to me at a conference who used to work at Wright-Pat and basically said that there was a hangar which was guarded 24/7, and you could smell the formaldehyde.
Wow.
And yeah, you couldn't get near it.
So do you think that this is a foreign government? Do you think it's our government? Who do you think would be, you were threatened, because of your work in UFO. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but I mean, why would people be killed or whatever, abducted because of their work with UFO technology?
I was threatened because of our work on the Kandahar Giant. I was threatened 3 different ways, that my car would have an accident, my cell phone would have child pornography on it, that one of our children would go missing and never be found again.
Wow.
And I've stated that publicly numerous times.
Yeah.
And like the woman who said, if I kill myself, I didn't. If I overdosed, I didn't. If I go missing, I didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said this publicly numerous times. As far as what's happening with that, no comment.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk for just a minute about the coming great deception, because this is all leading somewhere. Okay.
Yeah.
So the UFOs are real, but they're not extraterrestrial. They're extra dimensional. That we believe, you and I both believe, this is demonic. This is a demonic. This is Genesis again that you're talking about. The seed war. Jesus says, as it was in the days of Noah, so it will also be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. There is a breeding program. You talk about this extensively. You write about this extensively. There is a breeding program. The people that are abducted, and the abductions is a real phenomenon. The people who are abducted have sexual experiments done on them. They actually have sex in some cases with these hybrids. These hybrids have sex with them. You actually have a lady that lives here in Dallas that has been a part of that. And so this is part of the great coming deception, right?
Look, what is coming is unprecedented, and we were warned about it. There's a lot of people in the church, just give me Jesus only. Okay, let's just do Jesus only for a minute. So why would Jesus point back to the days of Noah?
Right.
Out of every part, in the Old Testament and the Tanakh that he could point to. Because the days of Noah are unprecedented. The fallen angels, the watchers come down.
Right.
They are taking wives, right? Plural. They are contaminating the genome. And if they succeed, then Messiah will not be born. The prophecy won't happen. Only 8 people get on the ark, which leads me to wonder whether there was some sort of a diluvian mark of the beast type thing where people took into themselves something, changed their DNA, which is why only 8 people get on that ark.
Right.
Something weird happened, and we're not told in Scripture. This is conjecture on my part. So we know that Jesus warns us, again, Jesus only, because a lot of people don't want to talk about this. So let's just do Jesus only. Let's just stick to the Bible. Why would he say that men faint from fear from what is coming upon the earth? Right. Why would he point it back to the days of Noah? Right. Why would he say that even the elect would be deceived? Why would Paul add to that and say that the dragon, Satan, the evil one, comes with all signs and lying wonders? Why would we read in 1 Timothy chapter 4 that the Spirit expressly states that in the latter days, we've already covered that, some will depart from the faith, right, giving heed to seducing spirits and the doctrine of demons? So this is a little pamphlet, little tract Thank you, Brad Myers, for instigating this. We hand this out to people at our conferences. We give them away. If you buy anything, this is channeled information. It came through a woman, and she had this entity either voice to skull, automatic writing, or some other occult means, which we're forbidden to do.
Right.
But this is what the other side of the aisle was promulgating. This is what this entity says. We are here. We are the Pleiadians. Humanity is learning a great lesson at this time. The lesson is, of course, to realize your godhood. Where have we heard that before? You know, if you eat of the fruit, you'll become like God.
Right.
Nothing has changed. And by the way, we are the Pleiadians. You're not the Pleiadians. You're the Watcher Angels.
Right.
You're the fallen ones, and you're here to deceive mankind. Listen to what the entity says. If human beings do not change, if they did not make the shift in values, and realize that without Earth they could not be here, then Earth, and its love for its own initiation, is reaching for a higher frequency, will bring about a cleansing that will balance it once again. So here's the cleansing. Here's the punchline. There is a potential for many people to leave the planet in an afternoon. The people who leave the planet during the time of Earth changes do not fit here any longer, and they are stopping the harmony of the Earth. Well, that's you and me.
That's right.
And the born-again, spirit-filled Christians who are saying these are not extraterrestrials. They are interdimensional entities, i.e. fallen angels, with the hosts of the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, which become the demons that wander the earth. This is the great deception. And the other side of the aisle is promulgating constantly that we were seeded here by an advanced race of extraterrestrials, that they started the world's religions, world's cultures, civilizations. Now at this critical juncture, they are here to usher mankind into a golden age. And this is where we are. I'm not making, people, like when we took out the implant years ago from a man who had been abducted, it's in our Watchers film. His name is Emil. He was abducted from the time he was 5 years old. He was experimented on, sexually deviant stuff like we can't get into here, just horrible stuff. But he was implanted. When I started talking about implants in 1999, I was laughed at. I was called all sorts of names by my Christian brothers and sisters. But when Richard Shaw and I took out the implant from Emil, and it's all on film, crickets, no one could say anything. It was on X-ray. And by the way, there's no entrance wound. There's no scar tissue, nothing. It was like somehow placed magically there below his knee.
Wow.
We have X-rays, CAT scans, ultrasound. A stud finder can find it. It was putting off a radio frequency. All this is in the film in our Watchers series. We're the only Christian ministry ever to even come close to revealing this, and it's in our Watchers film. It's unbelievable.
I saw.
So
I watched.
And I'll close with this. I think these implants are the prototype. This is conjecture, but I think the implants are the prototype to the mark of the beast.
Wow.
Whoever is doing this has spent a lot of time and a lot of resources because there's an evolution of these things. The one we took out was 40 years old. That's number 17. The one right before that, number 16 implant that Dr. Roger Lear and Dr. Matriciana removed, you couldn't cut with a diamond saw blade. He had to cut it open with a laser beam. Wow. And inside were double-walled carbon nanotubes, very sophisticated. The body does not reject it, which in itself, there's no entrance wound where the thing is. How does that work? The body does not reject it. It's not attached to the circulatory system. It's attached to the nervous system.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's the prototype to the mark of the beast. I really do.
So, Ellie, when people see all the stuff that's coming out about UFOs, they need to understand that, first of all, this is a part of Bible prophecy. The days of Noah are here, buying, selling, marrying, and giving in marriage, but there's a hybrid race being developed. When the rapture happens, you just read that New Age piece there, the planet's going to be cleansed. When we leave, they'll consider things better off without us, Oh,
let's get Christians are out of here.
But imagine that the rapture happens in the next minute. Spacecraft appear, these beings appear, and you believe that's part of the great deception?
Absolutely. And that ties right into our verse for the year, really. The Spirit expressly states in the latter days, some will depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits, doctrine of demons. This is where we are. This is where we are. We are poised. Did you see that meme with President Trump and the tall
Yeah.
7-foot
Yeah.
alien?
Yeah.
I mean, why is he doing that?
Yeah.
Why is he doing that? It's just like, what? They are telegraphing what's coming. They will show the bodies. They will. They will show the bodies.
Well,
and now what?
The book, The Da Vinci Code, Dan Brown wrote
Yeah.
about Jesus actually not dying on the cross, and he marries
There you
Mary
go.
Magdalene. So, well, millions of people many people defected from Christianity because of that. 60 Minutes, of all people, totally debunked the Da Vinci Code. But in spite of the fact that it was a bunch of lies, because of the mastery of his writing and the filmmaking that followed, many people thought, hey, well, that's the truth. Jesus didn't actually die, so I'm not a Christian anymore. Well, when Steven Spielberg comes out with Disclosure Day in a couple of weeks, he's a master filmmaker.
Yeah.
And if he's propagating this belief that aliens put us here, so on and so forth, I'll guarantee you, Ellie. And the thing that you and I both are concerned about is believers need to stand their ground. They need to stand upon the scriptures. They need to understand this is deception, even though UFO technology, UFO reality is there, it's right there. The answer to it is demonic. It is not scientific.
But when you say demonic, we need to just, really drill in on that. So demonic is a broad term. Demons, in my opinion, are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim.
Right.
Nephilim are the progeny of fallen angels, human women, creating a Nephilim. We're destroyed in the flood. They don't have bodies like fallen angels do.
Right.
Angels have bodies. They sit down and eat with Abraham. The technology is real. The technology is real.
Right.
There are nuts and bolts craft.
Well, that's a good distinction there. Rungs of Disclosure is your book, L.A. It's a fantastic book. How can people get your book?
Well, you can go to Amazon, and there's a sale on Amazon that nobody could beat right now. So go to Amazon. You can go to my store, lamarzulli.com, and get it there. What's great about Rungs is it's an interactive book. This book has 18 rungs in it, okay? We are up to rung number 29.
Oh, wow.
And you can go to rungsofdisclosure.com, rungsofdisclosure.com, all one word, and it's an interactive site. Every time we go up, like May 8th is certainly a rung of a lot of disclosure.
Right.
No doubt about it. Huge, right? Real disclosure. But, full disclosure is when we see mile-wide craft. That's it. So we're getting our side of the story. But when they show up, that's a whole different deal.
Yeah.
Whole different game changer. That's the mega lever. That's when some will depart from the faith.
Yeah.
Because they won't. Because their pastors haven't warned them. They don't know what they're looking at, and they'll believe the lie. Seducing spirits. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
This is where we're headed.
Well, I so appreciate your ministry, and you came to we had a little conference, and I introduced you, and I said, I've been listening to you for a long, long time, and when I first started listening to you, I would just listen and go, "Is that true? Wow, wow!" And you always prove everything you say, but I've just learned, you're a careful researcher, and make documentaries and films, and when you say something, you've got stuff to back it up with, and you've been saying this for decades. But now we're living in the age of disclosure. Now we're living, which makes me think that Jesus is coming soon. We don't set dates. I don't know exactly when, but I'm.
Up we go.
That's right.
Up we go.
Well, L.A., you're a blessing, and I want you to come back anytime you want to. But God bless you, and thanks for being with me today.
Thank you, Jimmy. Really appreciate you and your work and your stance for Israel. More Christians need to do that. And your new book, Haman, I can't wait to get that and dive into it.
Thank you,
Really
L.A.
cool.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
God bless you. Take care.
You too. Hope this program today has been a blessing to you. Things are happening in the world right now that are so unprecedented. And some people are losing their faith. They're wondering, these UFOs are, governments coming out and saying that they're real, that aliens are real. And, they wonder if the Bible's true. The Bible's absolutely true. And you heard us talk about this today, and maybe you have a friend or a family member that really needs to listen to this information. This is a critical time for us to be grounded in the Word of God and to keep our eyes on Jesus, waiting for his soon return. In the meantime, we're still doing God's work. We're going to continue to grow this ministry, take this message to as many people as we can. We're also helping the nation of Israel. And right now we have a special project. We're raising $39,000 to build a bomb shelter for a clinic in northern Israel. This is like on the border up with Syria in Lebanon. And this is where Hezbollah is bombing those areas. There's a clinic that young people are referred to, and they go to this clinic for help. They're traumatized young people. And when they go to this clinic, there's no bomb shelter. So when the bombs start dropping, they have nowhere to go. The people there at the clinic, the workers, and also the little kids, they don't have anywhere to go. So they're just scrambling and running for any kind of shelter they can find. Well, for $39,000, we can build them a bomb shelter. We're going to do that. So if you'd go to endtimes.com/donate, or just go to endtimes.com and hit the donate button there, give your most generous gift. When you give, you're helping us to continue this ministry. You're also helping us to help the people of Israel. Specifically right now, you're helping us to build a bomb shelter for the little troubled kids that go to this clinic for help, but they have nowhere to hide, nowhere to go when the bombs start dropping. Help us if you would right now. endtimes.com/donate. Also remember prayer at endtimes.com. If you have a prayer request, we pray over every single prayer request that comes in. Also questions at endtimes.com. We answer questions every week. If you have a question, questions at endtimes.com. We would love to get your question. We get to as many of them as we can. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'll see you next time here on Tipping Point. Thanks for watching Tipping Point. If this message encouraged you, hit subscribe and share it with someone who needs hope right now. The signs are clear. Jesus is coming soon. Don't miss a single episode as we break down what Bible prophecy says about the days we're living in. Until next time, God bless you.
Whoa, 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 oh, oh. I was chasing distant skylines, running far from where you stood, thinking if I had it all then maybe life would feel like it should. Every road kept pulling forward, every dream was somewhere new, but I never saw the pieces were all leading back to you. I tried to hold the whole wide world, every star, every view, but every piece I ever found was just another part of you. Every step, every mile, every dream I thought I knew led me back to where you are. My whole world was you. All the things I thought I needed started fading one by one, when I saw that all my reasons ended where we'd begun. I try to hold the whole wide world, every star, every view, but every piece I ever found was just another part of you. Every step, every mile, every dream I thought I knew led me back to where you are. My whole world was you. If I had just turned around sooner, I would have seen it clear. Everything I ever searched for was already right here. I don't need the whole wide world, I don't need a sky so blue. Every piece of life I want is already in you. Every road now feels like home, every dream has come in view. I was lost until I found